You felt excruciating pain in your whole body. Your veins were burning, as if lava was running through them instead of blood. You felt ice cold, yet you were covered in sweat. Your vision was blurry, and your ears filled with sounds that didn't make any sense to you. All you felt was pain and misery. You had no idea how long you had been here. All you knew was that it had been way too long. You lost all hope of ever getting out of the situation. You were certain that this place was the place where you would meet your maker. You knew that you would die as a captive of the League of Villains. "Why are you doing this to me?" you asked, trying to make out the people that were surrounding you. You heard laughter all around you. "Do you have any idea how vulnerable you are? We're going to turn you into a weapon. Our weapon." You swallowed hard, but your throat was completely dried out. So instead, you broke out into a coughing fit. "You won't get away with this," was all you could say, before you felt another needle, injecting more of the substance that felt like it was burning you from the inside. A loud and terrified scream could be heard throughout the dorm building of Class 3A. Every single student was woken up by the desperate sound that was echoing throughout the halls. Katsuki was up on his feet in mere seconds. He immediately knew who let out the scream and wasted no time in making his way over to you. Your classmates were also coming out of their rooms. They were very confused and on high alert. Was there a villain attack in the dorms? But Katsuki knew better. Katsuki knew that there was no attack. You've just had another one of those nightmares that had plagued you ever since you had been captured by the League of Villains about 4 months ago. You had been out to do some shopping when you were ambushed and taken away without anyone noticing. Back then, Katsuki and you hadn't been a couple. You had both been in love with each other, but neither of you had confessed your feelings yet. To this day, he kept telling himself that if only he confessed to you sooner, you would have already been a couple, and he would have been there with you that day, able to protect you and keep these monsters from taking you away. But alas, that wasn't the case. And when he realized that you were missing, it had already been too late. Nobody knew where you were, and for a week, nobody had heard a word about your whereabouts. People were expecting the worst. You were All Might's niece after all, so it was very probable that villains took you hostage, or worse, killed you to throw the symbol of peace into despair. Katsuki was in agony every second that you had been away, and he swore that the moment you would be back, he would confess to you and protect you for the rest of his life. It took another 2 weeks until they were finally able to locate you. Katsuki had pleaded with his teachers to let him join the rescue mission. They were reluctant at first. He was just about to start his 3rd year. Could they really risk it? But he was one of the strongest of their students, and he had a professional license. Katsuki reminded them of how he had been captured by villains and how terrifying it was. He said there was no way he wouldn't join them, so in the end, he had no choice but to allow it. When they finally rescued you, he fought fiercely to get you back out of the hands of the villains. When he saw one of these scumbags holding your limp body like a shield, something inside of him snapped, His heart was in so much pain. He had no idea what condition you were in, and if they were able to save your life. All he knew was that you looked terrible, and that he needed to hold you in his arms as soon as possible. He managed to defeat the villain without harming you any further, and immediately carried you out of the building and into the ambulance van. He was with you the entire time, holding your hand, praying that you would open your eyes. When you arrived at the hospital, you told him to wait. While they were taking care of you, he was reluctant to let go of your hand, but he knew it had to be done. When a doctor came up to him and told him that you were going to be okay, and that he could go see you, he felt so incredibly relieved. He was sitting by your bed, holding your hand until you finally woke up. When you opened your eyes and realized that you were in the hospital, you felt so overwhelmed and confused. Then, you looked down at your hand, which was intertwined with someone else's hand, which made you even more confused. And then, you had finally looked up and saw these beautiful crimson eyes looking at you full of worry and love. You opened your mouth to talk, but Katsuki put one of his fingers on your lips. Before you say anything, I love you, YN. I always have, and I always will. From now on, I'll always be here. No harm will ever be done to you again. Okay? You nodded slightly, tears welling up in your eyes. He mouthed a weak "I love you too," before he kissed your forehead softly. Ever since then, you had been inseparable. Katsuki stood true to his words. He was always there when you needed him, which is why he didn't mind getting up in the middle of the night to comfort you. He didn't show it to anyone but you, but he had a major soft spot when it came to you. He was an incredibly loving and caring boyfriend, but only when it was just the two of you. He quickly reached the other side of the building, where the girls' rooms were located. He sprinted up the stairs and saw that a lot of your classmates had already gathered in front of your door, unsure whether to knock or not. "Get out of my way, extras," he scoffed, and everyone was jumping out of his way immediately. He opened the door with the spare key of your room that you had given to him. You always locked the door, scared someone might enter and snatch you away again. The light of the hallway illuminated your dark room, and he immediately spotted your shaking figure, curled up in your bed. It broke his heart to see you so terrified. Up to this day, you hadn't talked about what exactly happened to you. Every time someone would ask, you would get a terrible panic attack and stop talking immediately. Katsuki had no idea what could have happened to you, that you were still unable to talk about it. You had been captured by the League as well. Sure, they had tied him up, leaving him unable to move, but that was about it. He knew your body had been in a terrible state and that you had lost a substantial amount of blood. He knew you had wounds, but he didn't know what kind of torture they had put you through. He immediately closed the door, leaving the both of you in the dark. He wasted no time in getting over to where you were sitting on your bed and sat down next to you, holding you in his strong arms. "Come here, babe. It's okay. I'm here now," he whispered. You desperately clung to his shirt and sobbed bitterly. "Thank you," was all you could bring out. He was sitting there with you in his arms, gently rocking you back and forth, constantly kissing your soft forehead and whispering that everything was alright. He didn't know if that really helped or not, but that was all he could think of. While he was holding you, he was looking through the dark room. The room was shining through the window, illuminating the room just enough for him to see the open bottle of pills on your nightstand. The bottle had been knocked over, and some of the pills had spilled out. He immediately freaked out. "Why, Anne? What are those pills?" You sniffled a bit. "They help me sleep." You said quietly, "Why is the bottle knocked over? And why are so many of them missing?" You swallowed hard. "Katsuki, You didn't know what to say. The look in his face broke your heart. You had never seen him so upset before. "Were you trying to overdose?" He didn't know what to think or how to feel. He knew you were hurting, but he had no idea just how bad it was. You didn't say anything. You didn't know what to say, so instead, you just cried silent tears that were running down your cheeks. When he realized that he was right, and you actually had tried to end it all, his body felt like it was falling apart. His chest was hurting, and his mind went into overdrive. "Please, you need to talk to me. You don't have to go through this alone. If you're hurting, then I'm here to take the pain away. Please tell me what's wrong." He pleaded, his voice cracking heartbreakingly, and you could tell he was about to cry. You felt like the worst person to walk this earth. You hated yourself for making Katsuki, the love of your life, go through so much distress and pain, all because you couldn't deal with what had happened to you. Why couldn't you get over it? Why was what happened to you still haunting you every waking moment and every time you closed your eyes at night? "I'm sorry, Katsuki. I just can't do this anymore. I'm not strong enough. This is eating me up inside. And I'm tired. I'm so tired, Katsuki. I just want this to end." He explained quietly. His eyes were full of pain and sorrow. Just what was it that he did to you? How did he manage to break your spirit like this? You closed your eyes for a split second. Immediately, pictures of your captivity came flooding back. Maybe you had to talk about it to get some closure. Maybe keeping it all bottled up inside was too much for you to deal with on your own after all. So you told him everything. You told him about the torture, the needles, and injections. You told him about the things he said to you, the laughter and the beating. It was like everything that you had kept inside was flowing out of your mouth like a waterfall. And then you told him about the worst torture that he had inflicted on you. One of the villains had a quirk that put images where it was true in your head. And they played it over and over again, until I started to believe it was real. You said, sobbing, "You showed me images of you with another girl. They showed me how happy you were, and how she made you laugh. It made my heart ache so much, and it always ended up with you being killed in front of my eyes. I had to see your lifeless body over and over again, and there was nothing I could do about it." You broke down, crying hysterically. Katsuki didn't know what to say. He knew that it had been bad, but he had no idea just how much the league had put you through. After hearing what you had just told him, he completely understood why it had affected you so much. If you thought about seeing you as someone else, or seeing your lifeless body over and over again, it would most definitely destroy him from the inside too. Telling Katsuki about what happened felt like a massive weight had been taken off your shoulders. For the first time in months, It felt like you weren't alone in this. The reason you hadn't talked about it before was because you didn't want to burden anyone with the knowledge of your torture. But opening up to your boyfriend really helped. You shifted a little bit in his arms to be more comfortable and feel closer to him. He let you move around as much as you needed to, finding it adorable how you were trying to get comfortable in his arms. After a couple of minutes, you had found a good position, and without a content sigh, Katsuki was now sitting on your bed, with his back leaned against the wall. You were curled up on his lap, his strong arms embracing you, making you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. One of your cheeks were nuzzled into his chest, and you looked up into his crimson eyes that were lightly illuminated by the moon shining through the window. The way you were laying in his arms was almost like being cradled as if you were a baby. For the first time since your captivity, you felt safe. He looked down at you, one of his large hands stroking your soft hair. There's no need to be afraid anymore, YN, because I'm here, and I'll protect you. I'll never leave your side, he said, leaning down and emphasizing his statement with endless kisses to your forehead. You can take my word for it. I'll be right here with you until the very end. You looked up at him and smiled a genuine smile. For the first time in what felt like centuries. I really don't know how you managed to trick you into being my boyfriend, he said, admiring his handsome face. He scoffed. You got it backwards, babe. I'm the lucky one. I could spend all day talking about all the things that I love about you, and to still not do you injustice. He grinned. I wish you would show this cute side of you more often, Katsuki. You lightly flicked your nose, and you were pretty sure he was blushing madly in the dark. Shut up. Don't get used to it, he said, trying to sound annoyed, but feeling miserably. I love you so much, Katsu, was the last thing he managed to say before you fell asleep in his arms. He smiled down at you. I love you more, he whispered, watching you sleep and stroking your hair absent-mindedly. And I'll always be here to protect you, YN.